Our next speaker is Edward Millard, and Edward will address us on the topic of food security, climate change and sustainable agriculture. Edward is currently the Senior Manager of Sustainable Landscapes at the Rainforest Alliance UK. He previously was a Senior Enterprise Advisor at Conservation International, where he had a key role in managing CI's relations with private sector partners. Edward, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm going to tell you a story, but because of the time constraints, I'm going to make it a short story. And the short story is just following on the theme that we've been hearing about cross-sector partnerships. And these partnerships are between the voluntary sector and the private sector, which I know is well represented here today. And this is the story of Rainforest Alliance. And Rainforest Alliance is an NGO, so this is also my response to David McWilliams. I can't do the accent. What are you going to do about it? This is what we're going to do about it, and this is what we are doing about it. So I don't need to go through the problem, because we had an excellent presentation from our colleague from FAO earlier, putting really, I think, the problem in better terms than I can. We know that there is a direct causal relationship between agricultural production, deforestation, loss of the world's biodiversity and climate change. And we have the numbers, the scientists are pretty convincing on the points. So if we also factor in the questions of food security, we know we've got to have some policies and approaches towards improving our food production systems. The forests not only conserve carbon, but the forests also provide a great deal of services to agricultural production systems, so that the forests and agriculture have unfortunately come into a kind of conflict situation because of rising populations, because of migrant populations who exacerbate tensions in particular areas of the world. And these pressures are causing a conflict where, in fact, we should be having a much more harmonious situation, because if the forests are acting in their full role, they can provide a great deal of benefit to all agricultural production systems. They help to conserve, we've heard the explanations today, they help to conserve rainfall, soil quality, water quality. They provide services like pollination, beneficial insect controls, a whole range of things that agriculture needs the forests for, let alone people or species like these needing the forest for and conserving the biodiversity. Okay, so that's the problem, and linked to the issue of food security, we've got to approach this, in our view, by thinking of food security as a developmental issue. That is to say, agriculture needs to be profitable, it needs to be productive, it needs to be interesting for people to continue working in it and not to leave the sector and to go to the cities and seek other types of job and thereby leave the agricultural production landscape underproductive. We've heard about the pressures on the landscape. So first point is, if you have a young person thinking about, do I stay in agriculture like all the generations before me have, it's got to be interesting to them, otherwise they're not going to do it. So for that very basic issue of human motivation, we have got to make farming more profitable, more attractive for younger people to stay in it. And that means overcoming some of the constraints, again, that we've heard about very well today, such as lack of access to services, extension, training, inputs, credit, all of those things that are not available easily to farmers, and newer technologies that will enable the land and the production on that land to increase. So to achieve that, this is what the Rainforest Alliance does. It promotes something called the Sustainable Agriculture Standard. And this tool is a set of, if you like, guidelines or criteria for what we have thought over a period of 15 years, together with 8 or 9 other tropical agriculture organizations, all of them based in the southern world, us included. Our agriculture work is based in Costa Rica, to develop a response in tropical agriculture to the realities of these constraints and challenges that we've been hearing about. And what we do is we promote this standard. It contains a set of guidelines or criteria which are pretty evenly divided between social, economic and environmental. And to promote them, we harness the power of the market. And this is where the private sector comes in. So this sustainable agriculture standard looks to achieve, through farming practices, the conservation of the basic ecosystem in which tropical agriculture is taking place. In other words, it's saying, don't grab land by destroying the forest, because although that gives you land today, it gives you problems tomorrow for the reasons of deforestation, climate change, loss of forest services, etc. That vicious cycle of problems. So in the system that we promote for the conservation of forested land, the reforestation of degraded land, what we can call the services that are given to soil and water, the corridors for biodiversity, because you retain a forest structure, we aim to achieve a more harmonious system between the agriculture and the environment. But it's absolutely not all about the environment, because back to my point, if it's not profitable and interesting for people, they won't want to stay in agriculture. So there's a whole part of the Sustainable Agriculture Standard which is about the rights of people, the returns to people from the investments they make in these, in adopting these practices, and particularly where there are employment situations, and that would be the case in larger farm systems. We work with smallholders in tropical agriculture and with larger farmers. Then the access of workers to proper educational facilities, proper housing facilities, education for the children, etc. So this standard is promoting a set of what we consider to be good agricultural, economic and social practices. And the incentive for people to adopt it comes from the fact, comes from two sources. First, that it has a beneficial impact on their quality of life. And I'll show you two examples very briefly in a moment of where we have measured that and demonstrated it. It enables people to actually have more access to services, more knowledge about farming systems through the training and extension that they can receive, to have opportunities for smallholders of belonging to groups, and to be able to therefore have a more dynamic, knowledgeable, interactive relationship with the supply chain of the product they're working in.